Hello, and welcome to the budgeting tutorial for the spreadsheet. This is going to be the first part of the tutorial where we set up your actual budget. So let's kick this off. So this is where you would start. You would enter in your minimum monthly income. So if your income fluctuates somewhat, you're going to want to use a conservative estimate for what your monthly income is going to be. So for the sake of example, we're going to say $2,500 for the month. And the next step is we're going to create the different budget categories that you want. So this will be where you enter those. And as we add them, this number down here is going to change. So we have, as of right now, we have $2,500 left to allocate to whatever your budget items are. So let's start off, we'll say rent. And we'll say that's $950 for the month. And groceries, let's say $600. And you can see down here, we've already used up quite a bit of our budget, and there's only $950 left to allocate. So next we'll say subscriptions. And you could put anything in here like, Netflix, Spotify, what have you. And we'll say $75. Vehicle expenses, you could say, or you can do fuel. All right. So as you can see, I'm not going to go through and do all of the different budget items that you might think. Obviously, I don't know what your situation is. So you've got 19 free slots to create different budget items for. So I'm just going to use up the remainder of our budget right here, just to keep things simple. Whoops. There we are. And we have $0 remaining to allocate to an item. We've got it all spread out amongst these 5 different categories. Now, as you can see, as we entered these out, this autofilled over here. So now we've got the balances. Since we haven't put any money actually into your budget, we've just allocated where the money is going to go when you get money. All of these balances are currently 0. I should have mentioned to begin with that all of these grayed out cells are being calculated. So anything that's like a light gray background, you don't ever want to edit that because it will mess up the spreadsheet. So we're moving on to bank balances. Now this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to put in a few different options here. So we'll say savings, checking, and we'll also say that you've got a credit card. So, all right. So again, we've plugged these in, but the balances are 0. Now, for the sake of example, to keep things simple, we're going to say that your starting balance for your credit card is $0. In another video, I'm going to go through and break down the different credit card situations that you might have and how to handle them in a spreadsheet. But just to keep this intro video pretty simple, we're just going to say this is actually $0, and we're going to put some money in your savings and checking accounts. Now, the easiest way to get balances into your savings and checking accounts is in deposits. So this is going to be a one-time thing to get the bank account balances accurate. So let's say that you've got $1,200 in savings and $300 in checking right now. You would go to this deposit screen. So we'll say that this is the 1st of 2023. And bank account. Now you have the option to just click this drop down and it shows you the various bank accounts that you have. And we're going to say savings. The amount, the starting balance that we're going to say that is in savings is $1,200. And for the memo, I'm just going to say, all And now for the next one, we're going to say checking. And that's going to be $300. Oops. Okay, so let's go back to our dashboard and see what that changed. As you can see, we've got $1,200 in savings, $300 in checking for a grand total of $1,500. And it has gone and done all the work and divided up the amounts into your various categories. All right. Now, there's a good chance that just doing those two things alone, creating your categories and allocating the dollar amounts and setting up your bank accounts, there's a good chance that in each of these categories, you might not really have a convenient starting amount. For instance, in this case, maybe you already just paid car insurance right before we set up this budget, but rent is due tomorrow, and rent is $950, and you only have $570 allocated to rent right now. So what you would want to do here is you would want to move or borrow money from the car insurance fund to pay down rent. Now, this probably isn't something you're going to have to continuously do moving forward. It's just to get the balances to a convenient amount to start with. So let's say rent is due tomorrow. You already paid car insurance for the month. So let's take, we're going to head over to this adjust category. And we're going to say, oops, and we're going to borrow from the car insurance. We're going to borrow, let's see what our car insurance, we got $285 that we can borrow. And we're going to pay it to rent. And this probably doesn't really need a memo. You can always put a memo in. And we'll see the effect it had. We now have $0 allocated for car insurance, and rent's now up to $855. So we're still just a little bit short. So we're going to borrow $95 from groceries. And say groceries. And once you actually start getting balances, or not, once you start getting entries made in this register, you can actually just start typing and it will autofill for you so you won't have to mess with the drop down. And again, we don't really need a memo. So as you can see, it decreased our groceries, and now we have enough money for rent. All right, so let's go ahead and actually pay down our rent. We would go to expenses, up to the date, and we're going to say that we're paying it out of our savings account. And we're paying rent to the amount of $950. Oops. And we're going to say this was for January. And you can include whatever info you want. Besides that, let's take a look at our dashboard and see what changed. Obviously, we no longer have that rent money, and it also decreased our savings account by $950. And we've got $550 in the bank, and we've got $550 allocated to our various categories. Now, you may have noticed that we have one more table over here. This is the deposit calculator. And this is just for your planning purposes. So maybe you only have $550 in the bank right now, but you know that you're getting a $1,500 check coming your way at the end of the week. So here, you could just come in here and say, I'm getting $1,500 in a couple days. I want to see how that $1,500 is going to be divided amongst my budget. And then that will break it down for you. So you know that $570 is going to be for rent, and so on and so forth, all the way down the list. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now, there's only one more page that we haven't covered how to use. Actually, let's say that you've looked in advance, you've seen this is going to be how your $1,500 is broken down. You made your plans for the week, and it's a couple days later, it's payday, you get your paycheck, and you choose to deposit it to your checking account. Well, let's say that it's, there we go, and it's $1,500. And we're going to say payday. All right. So our checking increased, and our available balances for each of our categories also increased. Yep. Pretty, very similar to what we did with setting up the bank accounts, but this is what it's going to be like moving forward. Let's enter just a couple more expenses just to make sure you get the idea. So, and you're paying this out of checking. So just say your Spotify bill came out. So let's say subscriptions and $14. All right, and go back and you can see that decreased, and so did your checking account. I think the expenses are pretty self-explanatory, so are the deposits. The areas that might be a little bit confusing, adjusting the categories, you could see how we moved money from one fund to the other fund. And then this last one that we didn't cover is, let's say that you don't want to keep $1,700 in your checking account. You prefer to have a bigger balance over in your savings. So let's say that we're going to move that $1,500 paycheck from checking over to your savings account. So checking, $1,500 to your savings. Okay. And just say transfer. And there, it moved over. So let's cover how you would handle the credit card. So obviously we said that we're starting out with a $0 balance, and you went grocery shopping on, let's say on the 7th, went grocery shopping. So you're going to use your credit card to pay for that, and it's going to be coming out of grocery. And you spent $190 for, let's see, food for the week. Now you can see that this has a negative balance now. So at the bottom, it's tallied up all your money. So even though you've got more than $1,800 in the bank right now, it's figuring out you're going to have to pay this credit card down by, within the month. And so your grocery went down, your credit card balance technically went up, but it's being displayed as a negative because it's offsetting the money in your bank. And that's how it affected your dashboard. So let's say that it's a few weeks later, your credit card bill comes due and you got to pay down this balance. The way you would do that is, assuming it's coming out of your bank account, we're going to say that you paid it on the 26th, and it's going to be coming out of your savings. And what was the balance? We can do 180, I believe. And it's going to your credit card. There we go. So the dashboard, oh, we actually overpaid, so we underpaid. So now that balance is $0. Money's gone out of your checking account, and it had no effect on your categories because you already paid for your groceries. Now you're just paying down your credit cards. You're just moving money from here to here. All right, hopefully that all makes sense, and hopefully that gives you enough info to get started with your budgeting. I am going to be creating another couple videos especially for the credit card situation, since that can complicate things a little bit. All right, I will see you in the next video.